What are Sharp Clorinde's biggest pros and cons? That's what I'm here to tell you today. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Ever since her debut into the game, I would argue that Clorinde is the best Electro DPS in the entirety of Genshin Impact. Her numbers are the highest out of any of them. She beats Keqing without question, but that much should be obvious, as the esteemed Yuhong is more so a official driver that does decent personal damage more than anything else. They both share the quality of having swift, quick-fire playstyles. However, Clorox Bleach does the job better than her through dishing out way more damage. While I consider Yae Miko to be a solid unit, she is indeed beaten out by the champion duelist. Clorinde's playstyle is far faster than her right here, right now silly business, while doing higher damage in the process. Even though Yae is wonderful and Aggravate, if you give those two the exact same team, the undefeated champion will truly live up to your name, defeating Yae's performance easily. Wait, undefeated champion? Anyways, Raiden Shogun is interesting because I believe her to be Clorox Bleach's closest competitor in the Electro DPS department. However, I believe that if you were to put both in a Chevreuse Overload team as C0R1 with similar levels of resin investment, Clorinde would do better. I believe that she's a stronger main carry than the almighty Shogun if we look at things in purely terms of damage. Is she a better unit? To me, yes, there's no questions asked. But if you care for Raiden's utility and ability to be a competent driver, then that might make Raiden better in your opinion. I believe that Clorinde's versatility beats the Shogun's, as despite her having fewer teams, she still has a good range of them which perform better than the Electro Archon's teams on average. So while there's a discussion to be had, I personally confidently believe Clorinde is the best Electro DPS without question. She outdamages them all, while adding some really neat things on top such as self-sustain. Plus, unlike Keqing and Yae, she isn't only good in Dendro-related teams. I'll touch on that more in a moment. So if you're looking for the meanest electro fighting machine, then perhaps this efficient duelist will be the right choice for your account. Alright, now we can touch on how this Lady of the Sword is far from being only an Aggravate unit. You see, Clorinde lends herself well to multiple different team archetypes. The reason as to why Keqing is considered such a good Aggravate character is because of the sheer amount of Electro that she applies. Fischl's A4 procs every time an Electro-related reaction is caused, therefore the Yuhong is able to proc them like quick-fire bullets constantly. In Yae Miko teams, even if her own DPS is far more significant, Fischl remains as a powerful partner for her as she covers for the Shrine Fox's main weaknesses, namely her huge ER requirements, as Fischl can generate a ton of particles for her which allow that nuclear burst to be cast far more often, not to mention how Fischl's A4s still get procced generously in that team. So why is Clorox Bleach any different? Well, you see, her own damage is so high to the point where it's actually somewhat inefficient to use Fischl with her. Don't get me wrong, she's actually still the best Aggravate DPS in the game, which should really go to show how powerful her damage numbers are. However, it's generally preferable to play her in teams where her own damage is being bolstered due to how high her potential is in comparison to the other Electros. Yae's damage is solid for the record, Fischl just so happens to perfectly cover for the Shrine Fox's main weaknesses. Because of Clorinde's wonderful strength, you'll end up seeing her played in many different teams. For example, using Kujo Sara instead to frontload a huge buff to her DPS. Because the duelist's uptime is rather short, she's able to fit very well within a C6 Kujo Sara's main buff uptime. You don't even want to see a Sara buffed Clorinde burst. That stuff is gnarly, dude. There's also the fact that she's one of the few characters in the game that is capable of completely using up Yunjin's burst. Normal attacks for days. This means that Clorox is able to snatch up a whole bunch of teammates that aren't in strong demand in other teams, so it's very easy to build a second half team with her. Her ability to play well in so many different archetypes makes her decently flexible in the Imaginarium Theater too. Let's not sleep on Overload either. Chevreuse Overload Clorinde is a super duper solid team. It's the go-to for many enjoyers of this D&D enjoying duelist. You can play the double cop duo super effectively, and she honestly fits really smoothly into this team comp. It actually recently saw an excellent buff with the recent introduction of the Exalted Pyro Archon, as one of the conditions for building up fighting spirit is using normal attacks. Well, guess what our good old Clorinde specializes in? So, not only has her Overload team successfully stood the test of time, but it's also gotten freaking buffs. As if Chevreuse reviving the reaction up from the ashes wasn't splendid enough already. You love to see it. Shoot, in recent times, she's gained even more formidable teammates which seriously aid her. For example, I used to seriously not be a huge fan of Clorinde or Taser. However, polite edgelord Auroron showed up, along with none other than the DJ Cat. So now, a team of Clorinde, Auroron, Lady Farina, Shilinen feels really solid to play. Two of those are new characters, both of which have sublime synergy with her. It's actually really neat how a good chunk of the released Nalon cast have actually buffed up the duelist. To me, this proves that her future is quite healthy teams-wise, and that she'll continue to be consistently updated performance-wise as the Abyss's difficulty continues to scale upwards over time. So she's quite a safe pull to make even now in my opinion. I'd also like to point out how the Electro DPS meta moves a lot more slowly compared to other elements. If we look at the Pyro niche, dude, it feels like we've been flooded with new Pyro DPSs every other week. It's not just Linny, Moika, and Arlecchino. There's Ga Ming, who is highly competent, Hu Tao is still really solid considering how old the character is, and you get the gist. We're constantly getting new DPSs over there. Hydros-wise, we got Mualani during Notlan, who came roughly a year after Mr. Settle Down's release. So now consider this. Yai Miko came out in 2.5, came into her true form during 3.0, and then Clorinde rolled around during 4.7. That's a huge gap in release dates. So if you pull for her now, you can expect that she'll stay crowned as the best Electro DPS for a good while until she falls off. Neat. I believe her to be quite the free-to-play friendly unit as well. She has plenty of highly competent 4-star teammates. Kudosara, Chevris, Yunjin, any of the 4VV holding Animos, and Lan Yan will be good to help with any interruption resistance issues that she may have had. There's Shangling as well. You get the gist. And hey, even if Fischl isn't fully utilized by Clorox Bleach, she's still a super formidable teammate with her, across many of her different teams too. The free-to-play craftable finale of the Deep works wonders on her, so if you have no other competent picks, then consider this one. It's excellent how highly accessible she is in that regard. Plus, I really want to emphasize that you should 100% be farming the Bond of Life set for her. It is her de facto best in slot, and will utterly fry all of her potential options that you could be using on her. However, I would like to take a moment to shout out how you can use 4-piece Thundering Fury on her and Aggravate teams until you're able to form a full 4-piece Bond of Life set. And considering how easily you can form a cheap Aggravate team, think about it. Fischl, Clorinde, 4-star Dendro, any 4-star Animo, you'll be able to get some good mileage out of the set. Just note that you should be changing it as soon as you can. Plus, 4-piece Gladiators is another highly accessible artifact set that works until you're able to put together a full Bond of Life set. And the reason as to why that's so cool is because you tend to farm that set very passively over time. Naturally, through killing bosses to level up your characters, you're gonna obtain a ton of fresh new Gladiators pieces. So you should be able to pretty easily throw together a temporary set for her that you got from simply playing the game over a period of time. This makes it super duper easy for a newer player to get to using her right out of the box, right after pulling for her too. So if you're looking for an accessible DPS, then Clorinde is a great avenue to take. I find that this champion duelist has some splendid ease of use too. She's genuinely not that complicated, so if you're somebody that wants an easy character to yield damage out of, then Clorox Bleach may be the right one for you. All you gotta do is pop her skill, bang 3 times, then dash through the enemy to self-heal her Bond of Life and repeat the cycle. It's as simple as it gets, while still remaining engaging as you have to pay attention to your Bond of Life meter down on your HP bar. Her main flaw usability-wise is that she can be a bit susceptible to interruption resistance. However, that can be solved pretty easily through the use of shielders. Lan Yan's gonna be huge in that regard. By the way, she's good against the Tenebrous Papilla. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a unit that is able to deal with the Papilla in a way that doesn't want to make you tear your hair out! Yeah! Her quick fire attacks whittle down its bars splendidly with zero need of Night Soul based mechanics. You do then have to deal with the boss spamming attacks your way every 2 seconds, but just the Tenebrous Papilla for you. Very tenebrous. Clorinde hasn't got too many major flaws in my opinion. However, there is indeed her short skill uptime. This isn't all that bad in my opinion considering that it works to her benefit at times. For example, it allowing her to nicely fit into Kujosara's buffing windows. But with that being said, this can make it annoying to one-rotate bosses for anybody who cares about doing that. It's a super small percentage of the player base who will actually consider that to be an issue. However, it is indeed a fact which remains. So keep that in mind if you're more on the hardcore side. And to be honest, I think her biggest flaw is that we simply have stronger main DPSs at the moment. Sure, she's the best Electro main DPS, but is she the best main DPS in general? Far from it. I'd say she's still very, very competitive in the current Abyss climate, and I'm happy to see that she's consistently getting new viable teammates added to her roster. However, with that being said, we're simply so spoiled for choice these days when looking for new main damage dealers. Dude, a DPS Archon just released. Moika is crushing the game's meta right now with how insanely powerful she is. Arlecchino is going to be the competing banner. Mualani hasn't had a rerun yet. Mr. Settle Down still manages to be one of the best characters of all time, even to this day. Aside from having a super epic and really good design, I'm just speaking facts there, what reason do you have to choose her over somebody like Novelette? If you care about collecting the best 5-star character of every element, then sure, get her. Clorox will bleach your enemy superbly. But I'd say that if an easy-to-use, powerful main DPS is all that you're looking for, then perhaps set your sights on the competing banner that'll be running at the same time as her, which would be Arlecchino's. Clorinde to me is a super well-balanced unit. She's not going to end the world like Mr. Settle Down, but she's not going to disappoint either. I think she has the perfect power level at the moment, while featuring a large host of teams, meaning that there is something for everyone when it comes to how you want to play her. Plus, I believe that she has some of the sickest battle animations in all of Genshin Impact. Awesome unit. She was most definitely only considered underwhelming on release due to coming out right after Arlecchino, which, let's be real, those are some pretty big heels to fill. But what do you think of Clorox Bleach? Will you be picking her up this time around, or is it looking like a skip? Let me know down below in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and subscribe if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. I'd also like to mention that I stream on Twitch. I stream once a week, every week on Saturdays, starting from 3 PM UK time. Come along so we can play Wuthering Waves, ZZZ, Genshin, and do some other stuff together. Hopefully this video was able to tell you Clorinde's biggest pros and cons. This has been Juice, signing out, and remember that Clorinde is the spice of life. She'd execute me over how bad that line was.